and do this MC work. Oh. Anyways, I'll just do a quick one. Is the timer working? So I know when I'm to. Um, Apologies, we're starting 30 minutes. Sorry, we started 20 minutes past the time we're supposed to start. Start time was supposed to be for 10 o'clock. But it's okay. Are we forgiving? Thank you. All right, so here's my opening speech. I just jotted something real quick, and I'll be reading from it just so I'm able to keep to time. We're standing at the start of a new year, and we're not standing as spectators, we're standing as builders. We're standing as thinkers, and we want to intentionally shape the year, because if you don't do anything different, 2025 is going to be like, do you understand? Like, however you were in 2025 is definitely going to be the same way you'll be in 2026. What just changed, or what will change in quotes, will be just the back number, 5 to 6. So there needs to be an intentional shaping on how you see the world, on how you see your world, and how you act towards it. All right, and so that's why we came up with the word shift. I'm trusting God that in every session today is intentionally curated beyond the live conversation we're going to have. We're going to have mentorship sessions to help you shift the way you think, shift the way you design, shift the way you create, and shift the way you produce. All right, and so I'll just quickly touch on the shift framework. S is for self-awareness. And that's because you cannot change what you can't see. Self-awareness is the ability to see yourself. A lot of us don't even see ourselves. We don't know ourselves, and we want to produce. I always say this: you cannot produce beyond your capacity, beyond who you are. And if you don't know who you are, right, the production level is faltered. And so S there is for self-awareness, because the brain will protect what feels familiar, even if it's holding you back. So shift begins the moment you see yourself clearly first, the moment you know your blind spots, and then that way you're able to move faster because you know that you want to do better and be better. So self-awareness is basically the moment you notice what triggers you, what drains you, what you avoid, what you overperform in. I know my strengths. I know what gingers me. And that way I'm able to fly and double down on the things that I can overperform in, right? Because the truth is, awareness will what precedes choice. I always say this: definition creates condition. And so if you're not aware and you've not defined yourself, you've not defined your situation, how are you creating the condition that you want? So the H here is habit interruption. It's okay to sound sweet and tell you all the sweet words, but at the end of the day, your goals and your results will rise and fall on the system in your life. And habit is the anchor to your system. So if you want to shift beyond being self-aware and beyond seeing yourself, you need to go on a habit interruption venture. What are the habits that I need to tweak? Who is the person I need to become to achieve the goals in my business I have set, or in my finance, or in anything that I have set? These things, what is the habit that I need to develop to be able to become that person? And so the most effective change and the part of shifting doesn't come from adding more, but it comes from interrupting any default old pattern that does not allow you to become a better person. And again, you might be good. Where you are might be okay. Where you are might be excellent. But God is calling you for more. God is saying, come up here in 2026. Are there certain goals that you're comfortable in? You've been doing so well and people are applauding you. But God is saying, come up here. I mean, this event for me is a come up here for me. I've had events, I've done things. And then for a while, for many of you who know, I took a break, right? And I could just have said, oh, let me just stay in my circle, do a birthday party or something. But God is saying, beyond your circle, beyond the things that you're used to, come up here. And this might be an inspiration for many people in your own small corner. And nothing is small really, but in your own space that God has put you in. What do you need to interrupt to become better? And then the I is the identity realignment. Listen, behavior doesn't follow logic, it follows identity. You can keep saying that I want to become this, I want to do this, I want to do that. Doing is always hinged on becoming. So you need to take on the identity of the things that you want to produce, the person you believe yourself to be. All right? So shift requires becoming the person who can sustain the growth you desire. Behavior will follow identity, not information. We're going to give you a lot of information here today. But beyond the information, we're going to shift your identity, shift how you see yourself, shift, a lot of things you have. Because again, like I said, you behave according to how you believe yourself to be. If you say you are an author, automatically, what do authors do? So there's nothing like saying, I want to write, and you keep saying, I want to. That's because you are just saying an information. You've not taken on the identity. If you're an athlete, what do you do? So, I want to run, I want to exercise, I want to lose weight. Rather than looking at the outcome, start to shift your thinking to say, let me take on the identity. And I think that's the problem when we set goals and we start the year. We list all the things of I want to, and then we forget the becoming part. We forget the identity part. So today, I'm just charging everybody here, sit still and ask yourself, what is the identity alignment I need to undergo to be able to achieve the things I want to achieve? And the F stands for focused intention. Your brain cannot focus on multiple endeavors at the same time. Right? Clarity would always narrow your focus. And I'm happy that we have our first keynote speaker here today who is going to be hinging on clarity. Because if you're not even clear to an extent of what you want to do or the things you want to achieve, you'll be everywhere and anywhere. Knowing that not everything good is good for you. You might see Victoria doing certain things and it's good and pleasing in other people's eye or in God's eye. But to you, when you do it, it's a sin because it's off your path. So today I charge you to take on the clarity mantra so that you're able to have focused intention to achieve, all you need to achieve this season. And then finally, the T means timely action. Listen, insight without action fades. You can keep writing and keep wishing you want to do things, but if you don't act, a lot of things will fall flat, right? So a shift is only complete when your insight, when identity, when information will meet with what? Action. Timely action. It's not by doing things when you feel like doing it. It's at doing it at the right time. And sometimes the right time is now. And so if sort of sleeping over it, don't worry, let me think about it, you've missed the window of opportunity. Remember the man at the pool of Bethesda, and I'm going to close by this. There was a miracle waiting to happen, but it only happened at the spot when the angel of God, what happened, stirred the water. So sometimes the reason you're not getting the result is because you are jumping into the pool at the wrong time. You are jumping either before the stirring of the water or after the stirring of the water. So timely action is important if you want to shift in this season. So I'll just close with this. This year is not just about more ambition, it's about better execution. And shift is not about becoming somebody new. It's rather returning to alignment, aligning with who God has said you should be and the things you should do this year. And it begins here in this room with the voices that we have created for you. And at this point, I'd like to say, welcome again to Voices Live 2026. And more importantly, welcome to your shift. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Please, another round of applause for our host and convener. I don't like that. Multiply that by 4. 3. All right. We are going straight to our voice sessions, and like our convener has said, that the first bus stop, the first port of call to getting you to where you ought to be in 2026 is clarity. Clarity. You have to know why. You have to know your what. You have to know your who. You have to know your how. You have to know your where. You have to know your whens. Our next speaker, or our first speaker, works with founders, leaders, and growing organizations across Africa to help them identify their core, to identify what they stand for, how they think, and how they build sustainably. She is a business consultant, cultural strategist, and the lead strategist at CISA, where she helps people and businesses align vision, values, and structure before growth. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome for our first voice session to speak on the clarity shift, finding your core before you build your year. Please welcome, with a round of applause, Nanke Essien.
Comprehend the lie you give. Tell me, where do I begin? Oh, hey, look at my hands up. Kimake be cherubim. Tabi said I feel alone. Lord, Timo, why you want to fish Shabora? Your mercy, your goodness, in my finger, and I feel it. Oh, I see it. Gratitude to say. I saw it, everything, give me a say.
Thank you. All right. Augustine, please, I will need your help in ensuring that we stay and, stay within time. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming and for being on the stage with me. Voices Live. See you at the stage. Your pretty picture and your pretty self as well. And so we're getting right into the conversation. So this is how to go. I'll ask 3 questions because we don't just want people to speak over you. We're making it a conversational style. I'll ask questions, and we're also going to pass the mic to every one of you, not everyone, 1 or 2 persons from the audience, to also ask their questions as well. Okay, so are you ready?
Of course, but I want you guys to use your voice, like scream,
Right.
do something, like, yeah, have energy, because if you don't give me energy, there's no energy coming from here. I need energy in this room. Scream! Now the shit is about to begin.
Right, I like this energy. Okay, we've read your bio, and I posted a very detailed bio of you on social media earlier. You've done a lot. You've been doing this thing, this clarity thing, this structured thing for about 15 years now. But when you right? And when you look back at your own journey, what shifted for you first to start producing at the level that you're fabulously producing at right now?
Well, that's a very intuitive question. I think that the first thing that shifted for me was the union between my identity and my assignment, coming into oneness with those things. And to be honest, I'm not in the mood to speak grammar to you today. I want us to break it down in a way that makes sense.
We're ready.
So, when I began to understand the enormity of what I do, so I'm going to share a little bit of what I do, and that will give some perspective, right? My assignment comes from Romans 12 verse 2, where the Bible says that we shouldn't conform to the patterns of this world. And when I sat with the one who gave me the assignment to understand exactly what it... Can you guys hear me? All right. Are you paying attention? Okay. When I sat with the one who gave me the assignment to find out what does this mean, right? It meant for me that a lot of nations, a lot of institutions, a lot of human beings have deviated from the original plan that was designed for them. And that means that they cannot build sustainable or long-lasting results. Now, when I realized the heaviness of that, when I realized the enormity of that, part of the things that started to shift for me is the humility towards even attempting to be the one who solves national problems, to be the one who solves institutional problems, or even for individuals. And I think that began to drive the way that I paid attention to things and how I even viewed the way that I did things as well. And that's when the shift happens. Now, a lot of times you would find that you are focused more on identity and focused more on activities than identity, and that's when things do not happen much for you. But when you are paying attention to exactly what the definition of your assignment is and the weight of it, knowing fully well that one nation is deficient because you are not moving, or one individual is deficient and not able to provide results at the speed and at the level that they should be because you're not moving, you take your assignment more serious. So pretty much that's what shifted for me, and that's what defines the way that we do things around us. Yeah.
Wow. This is such a grand opening. Please, a round of applause for her. All right. Having said that, now someone is sitting here or somebody is watching via the virtual loop, And if they are being honest, they don't even know what their core is. You mentioned identity. You mentioned being able to know that you are called to serve, even if it's a nation, right? And that is what drove you to basically shift. For some people, they don't even know what it is. They've been running on autopilot. They've been doing activities like you mentioned. They are copying what has worked for other people, other formulas, other things, chasing trends. Where do they even start, basically?
Okay, so I must start by saying that the answers you are looking for is in the silence that you are avoiding. And I'll say that again. The answers that you are seeking for in all of the events you attend, which is fantastic, by the way, is in the silence that you are running away from. As individuals, it is important that you are able to meditate on your journey. I'm using that I would liken that to Joseph, right? Joseph had a gift. The same dreams that took him to prison was the same dream that led him to the palace. But what was different? An understanding of the journey, meditation. So you could relate the prison season to the time when he quietened himself to actually understand the patterns that he needs to grow and become. So whilst we are attending, and I'll share with you how I figured out mine. I don't know how much time we have, but let me share. When I was about 16 years old, right, I had written down my goals and what I wanted to achieve when I wanted to get married, my second degree, and all of that. Now, by the age of 24, if I'm being quite frank and honest, I'd achieved everything. So at that point, life did not actually make meaning anymore. Yeah, life didn't actually make, because I'd achieved everything. What was next? And I was such a high flyer. When I come to the office and they call me 007, I don't know what that movie is, but I heard it's a very good movie. I don't watch movies. But they used to call me 007 at the time. Like anything that was required to move the needle, I was in the forefront of it. But then when I get to my car, I will start to cry because I couldn't recognize myself anymore, right? I couldn't recognize myself. I didn't know what it was that was pushing me or driving me. I was just doing. And at that point, that particular point where I found myself crying was a very pivotal moment. Why? Because it will lead me into shifting, right? Into becoming one with who I was actually designed to be. Now, I figured also that two things were happening. And I'm saying this also so that you can recognize the power of pausing and identifying the patterns within a certain period. Because every experience, scripture says all things work together for our good. So there's no experience that is wasted. Understood? There's no experience that is wasted. So that caused me to pause and ask myself, what is actually going on? And nobody could answer the question for me. So I knew that I needed to go into a place of introspection. Therapy helped, but I went to the therapy very purposefully to know exactly what I was going there for. Now, something on the other side was also happening in my career. I was also consistently quarreling with my boss. Now, this is the boss who used to call me 007, but I was consistently quarreling. There was just something wrong. I realized that what was going on in his organization, what was written on the website, was way different from what was going on inside. And I couldn't place a finger on it, but I was quarreling with him because I knew that he had the responsibility to change things. I didn't know what that was. So what therapy did for me was to help me come into an understanding of what it was I was supposed to do. Let me share. My dad passed on when I was 10 years old, and I know that I was a very privileged child. I'm sorry. Very, very privileged. I grew up with the silver spoons, you see. But when my father died, there was no continuity. People said all sorts of good things about him. There was no continuity. So I, for some reason, took on that responsibility. I'm the seventh born out of 8 people, right? So I started to work at the age of 14, started to earn money, started to do all that stuff. So everything I was doing was on the motivation of pain, was on the motivation of duty and responsibility, not on the motivation of my core, okay? So when I went into therapy, I figured I had been angry with my dad for so long because I realized that there was no system of transference. We didn't pick up any of his values. We didn't understand any of his worldviews. So we couldn't continue what he had. And that's what I was seeing in my boss. Do you realize? And that's when I came to the understanding that, oh my God, if this is happening to this boss at this time, if he leaves this organization, there is no method of longevity or continuity. Now, it is not in the physical assets, because he had the physical assets, but there was no mindset, there was no conviction, there was no ideologies, there was no identification of the values that could be transferred as a baton to the next generation to allow things to continue. And that's when I realized the severity of my assignment. Now, see, my dad's demise was what led me into working until I got tired. But an understanding and my oneness of why that was part of my purpose is what has led me to where I am right now. Does that make sense to anybody? Please use your voice, use your voice, use your voice. So, one thing you must recognize is that along your journey, there's what I call the brag bank process, BRAG. There's many seeds that you can, many patterns. If I had time, or if I have time, I can share my entire life experience, and it will just be a book that we can write now. But in every life experience, in every session you attend, in every opportunity you find to gather, there is a pattern that you must pull out and identify, and that becomes your own DNA. That becomes your own core. So attending a session, journaling, setting your goals is not a foolhardy process. It is actually a process laced with intention, because you then understand the direction it is taking you. So has that helped somebody? Awesome.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to be asking this question because I know you help businesses build systems for long-term success and structure. What's the one system someone should build, or one or two, as much as you can share within time, in 2026 that will make this year their best year yet?
Okay, my answer is going to be very non-conventional, because my focus is really behavior, and the behavior that drives the vision. And I say this because as Africans, we don't have disadvantages, but we have a lot of things that does not present on the world stage. What do I mean by that? If I talk about the word productivity, for instance, as Africans with multiple languages and multiple ethnicities, we don't have root words or root meanings for those words. So we cannot produce. Do you see what I'm saying? We cannot produce at the level as we see our Western contemporaries. So it's even about time, and that's a challenge for you in terms of shifting to begin to think about African frameworks that align with our lived experiences. That being said, it means that if I find myself in an environment that has a vision, and I'm a part of that environment, what that means for me is that there has to be a processing system, right? A processing system that helps me to extract the behaviors required for me to deliver on that vision. What that does for me is that immediately it truncates my personal biases. It truncates my own direct integration into that environment, but focuses on what is required for that vision to move, for that vision to transcend. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's what will help us to begin to move or to shift or deviate from this place where we are. So one of the most important systems that I would say really is that we need to build a solid culture and behavioral intelligence system. Now, whilst that does not mean goals and structure and strategy and all the big words that you people use, the reason I say this is that for every environment to thrive, there must be the mindset. There must be the meaning, right? And there must be, like Tony Robbins would say, the mechanics required. In other words, there must be the environmental mix-up or the environmental mix that ensures that I know why I'm in an environment and helps me to extract the behaviors I need to succeed in that environment. Secondly, there must be meaning to what I do, because whilst goals and strategy is important, if you don't have the right behavioral capacity or behavioral intelligence, you will not succeed in that endeavor, no matter how fancy it looks, right? And the other thing is the mechanics, how we do what we do to keep producing results. So if there's any system that must be delivered, because truly the culture and behavioral intelligence system encompasses everything along the lines of people, processes, systems, and structure. But we must begin to rethink how we approach these things, because it's big grammar. Do you see what I'm saying? It's big grammar, and we must, demystify it in such a way that it can be carried out really as action plans, and everybody within the organization can begin to see and key into that particular aspect. So I would say cultural and intelligence business system is what you need to actually develop.
Wow.
You may not clap for me, please. I don't like all of you.
Please, you need to give our voice here the energy that she needs. Please, a round of applause again. Is that okay? Or should they shout more? Shout more. Oh. That's right.
I've not heard that name in like 15 years.
Okay, Augustine, please, I would like to take 1 or 2 questions from the audience for her, just so that we can make it as interactive as possible. So if you have a question for her on Clarity or anything, we've shared her bio, anything that you know that is within her niche, now is the time to ask. This is for builders and thinkers and people who are intentional about growth. So you are not permitted to write your question on a paper. You will stand.
While we are waiting for them to ask a question, let me just say something. This is talking about clarity and shifting as well, and I just wanted to push this in terms of goal setting and in terms of getting prepared. I'll use an example or just something that happened to me a couple of days. I shared on my social media platform as well. There's a particular grocery store that I go to buy my groceries all the time, and during Christmas you would expect that it was a very busy time for everyone. Now, right on the corner as you're going to the store, another grocery store just went and pitched their tent there. Now, because it was a very busy season, you would expect that naturally human beings would just gravitate towards the new store because there was more parking space and there was more variety there. But guess what? What do you think the human beings did? They went to the old store. Now, why do we think that happens? People don't react to aspirations. They react to habits. They react to what is familiar to them. So whilst you may have the lofty goals and the lofty plans, when pressure comes, when push comes to shove, you will ask yourself the question, would I go back to my well laid out plan, or I'll go back to what is familiar to me? Now, if what is familiar to you does not serve you, you will continue roaming around in cycles and circles of mediocrity without producing results. So there must be a puncture to your habits, the behavior that deliver on your vision, the behavior that deliver, like right now, whilst you're listening to me, whilst you're writing, and throughout the entire time frame, you must start asking yourself, what are those habits I need to truncate right now? I need to change right now that will not help me deliver on my vision. I wanted to put that also as there so that it can also help to bob your mind in terms of the questions you want to ask.
Amazing. That's a good touch-up right there. So do we have any questions for... Okay, please help me get the mic to her. Somebody raised your... Mildred?
Culture, we eat strategy for breakfast. Someone I know usually quotes that more often. So sometimes you are changing, you are processing, you are creating an identity to take up that vision in the environment where you find yourself. But the environment and the people in that environment do not accept that you're processing, do not accept that the change you want to actually bring in order to drive that vision. It's like you are owning the vision, and no, you shouldn't own this vision. We own this place and we should drive this place, right? So whatever you do, and it becomes difficult for you to actually bring your identity or the behavior that you expect that should drive that vision. What do you do in such environment where you are where your processing for productivity is being resisted?
Okay, thank you. That's a very brilliant question. Me, I do agree with culture is strategy for breakfast, just because I can say that. But I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Whilst I agree with Peter Drucker's that quote, I always try to narrow general perceptions to our lived experiences, because we are the one experiencing it. We did not thrive in an environment where we went to the moon to go and figure out things. You see what I'm saying? We came out from a history, a journey. So we need to be very mindful of how we make these things our reality. So back to culture. in CISA, that's my company, we refer to culture as the behavior that brings the vision to life. Again, I'll say culture is what? The behavior that brings the vision to life. So if you look at that definition, it means that there are two aspects of that definition that will be key notes for us. One, there is a vision, a clearly defined vision, and two, there's a behavioral responsibility by everyone. Now, in your organization, you must see it as a child. You know, when you give birth to a child, your first 9 months, you are taking care of the child, you are bathing the child and all of that. But as time progresses, it's important that, Chukwuka, I hope you are listening, it's important that you begin to see that child as an entity. And ask yourself, for this child to fulfill its purpose or whatever it was designed for, what is the set of behavioral patterns or behavior required for this child to become? Again, like I said, what that does for us is that it processes what you bring in as your input. As individuals or as Nigerians, we have a lot of things that have affected our input. Our lived experiences, significant experiences, our mentors, what we have learned. We have all of those inputs. But as an organization, I need an output. That definition of culture creates a processor to ensure that it is only the behavior I need to see that delivers on the output that I want. That's the only thing that's going to be obvious in this space. That is what is going to drive the way we think, the way we solve problems, the way we deliver on our work, the way we have customer experience, the way people interact with our product. That is the way that if somebody comes with a problem, it is on the basis of that structure that we are able to make decisions, we are able to solve problems, we are able to teach, we are able to drive. That's how you drive behavioral change. That's how you drive cultural change. That's how you drive acceptance of what is going on. And also, in an environment, the people and the strongest archetypes are also very important within your environment. If you hire people based on sentiment or based on technical skills, and you don't pay attention to the values they bring or their behavioral patterns, then you'll be setting yourself up for trouble, you see. So there's so much that goes into why people do not accept. It's also in terms of you identifying the behavioral needs in that environment, particularly as it relates to the vision. It's also in you identifying how do we ensure that we teach it. So as a leader, I won't use what my mother taught me 10 years ago to solve a problem. I will solve it through the lens of my vision and my values. That's the way to inculcate behavior and to ensure that everybody within that environment is able to follow and buy into it. Do you understand? So that drives the concept of culture, and I hope that helps. Chukwuka.
Yes. Thank you, please.
Your voice.
So, it's like they're just waking up because I'm seeing more hands, and we can just take only one more, please. Please, Success. Can you pass the mic to her? Thank you. Please pass the mic to Success.
Okay, my name is Success, and I'm so happy to be here today. You mentioned you had achieved everything at 24. So how was that possible, if you don't mind sharing? And what advice can you give to young persons like myself who are trying to fast track? I know there are steps and processes, but there are definitely things you can do to help you get there faster.
So your mind does not respond to aspirations. It responds to your internal meter, right? Your internal meter. So take Isaac, for example. How many of you know about Isaac in the Bible, right? Isaac was farming in an environment where there was famine, right? And people were running away from the place. But he had a mental picture that he will have 100-fold, isn't it? If he stayed there. And that's exactly what happened. To be honest, I'm sorry for your generation right now. Sorry. Because you have too many distractions, too many things. I grew up in a generation where we were offline first and then we became online. So we had built the tenacity. We had built the pictures without pictures. Do you understand? We had built the pictures by seeing, by sight. I mean, I told you I was a privileged child, all of that, you know. But notwithstanding, I did not have any inhibitions in my mind on things I could achieve. And I'm not saying it because that's how it will happen for you. I'm saying it because I didn't have, to be quite frank. And permit me, if I can say, that I'm probably the only one in my family that had that mindset. And I would attribute it to the fact that I used to read a lot when I was young. I used to enjoy conversations with my dad. I used to enjoy seeing pictures with him and Queen Elizabeth. I used to enjoy seeing aerial views of where we lived at the time, because my dad would just rent a helicopter and take pictures just because. So I didn't have those limitations. And the truth of the matter, like I said, your mind does not respond to aspirations. It responds to your internal meter, your internal direction, your internal rudder. So what is going on internally? Let me explain to you. If you have been in an environment where lack was the order of the day, if your first exposure to the concept of finance was lack, the truth of the matter is that you never will change, no matter how much courses and how many places you go to, unless you can change the internal framework. And how do you easily change the internal framework? Go back to those experiences. What was your first experience, for instance, of financial breakthrough? Or your first experience with finance, whether it was the lack of it or the plenty of it? I mean my English. What was your first experience to, what are some of the aspirations you have to growth? What was your first experience to those things? When you go back to those experiences, you must see them for what they were, experiences. And then learn the lessons from there. When you learn the lessons, you're telling your mind, please don't go back to those experiences. Because your mind works in pictures. Your mind will always give to you what picture it has seen before, no matter what. So if the pictures that you've had in your mind is the first experiences you've had, your mind will only give you an edited, nicer version of it. But if the version that is in your mind is not good enough, you're only going to 10x what is in your mind. Do you see what I'm saying? So you must go back to those experiences, learn the lessons from them, and tell your mind, oh my God, it was good when it lasted, but we've closed that chapter now. Now we can go on to bring in new experiences. I'm saying this because if you load your mind with new pictures and you haven't closed the loop on the other one, like scripture says, it will go back and bring 10 more legions. And this is what I'm saying. So you have to go learn those lessons. Let your mind know. We experienced it. There's nothing wrong with it. You see, I used to sell clothes in Ujo Legba. I experienced it. Nothing wrong with it. But I've learned the lesson. Now, what did I extract from it? I know how to see a problem and solve it with very non-traditional ways. That's the lesson I learned from that. So I closed that loop. Now, when I close that loop, I want to now find out what is the truth, the true picture about those sort of experiences. You can leverage anything that stands as truth for you. The Bible, which is timeless, books, and authors, but be very careful. You must find out the entire truth about that. Now, when you find out the entire truth, it means light has come for you in that place. You have seen light. There's no more darkness, isn't it? Now, you must then become that light. In other words, that light changes your vocabulary, your internal work. It changes the things you say. So you don't import affirmations. Oh, I will be rich. I will be rich. No. You don't import affirmations. You have to become them. Because now you are changing the paradigm of your internal environment. Why? Because scripture tells me that there's a language that goes from different ends of the earth, and I understand it. So I say, oh, if there's something I need to know to train Stanford Seed, can you just give it to me? And I write it down because there's a language there and the language is available to me and I understand it. Do you see what I'm saying? Because creation is waiting. So your first step is, there's darkness here. You find out, you learn the lessons, you close that loop, you find out the truth, you load that environment with the truth, you become the truth, and you manifest it. Simple and short. I hope you learned.
Powerful. This is a full masterclass. You see what I'm saying? And this is what I thought about when we're curating this event. Practical things, and getting answers to your questions as well. That was such a powerful question and a brilliant answer to it. I think that's the right place to close. Just give us your final words as we wrap up this session.
Okay, final words. See, the final words, I've said it time and time again. you must change your internal meter. Nigeria is an environment that we are totally economically focused, okay? So all our activities drive towards commercial leverage and growing, but there is you, there is your assignment, there is you that needs to be manifested, that needs to, build deep in alignment with your core so that you can produce at that level. Now, I'm not hiding from the fact that we need daily bread. I'll tell you, in my consulting practice, my focus is culture, but culture is still a very new learning environment for people. It takes a steep learning curve and a lot to go by. But what other skill do I have? Human resources. So I create toolkits, I create HR boxes, I create structure frameworks that can make me earn money so that I don't lose sight of my vision. Do you see what I'm saying? So I have the commercial part, but it's still feeding my my purpose. It's still feeding my direction. It's still feeding my growth. I'm not doing either or, and I'm not leaving one to go to the other. It's not, that makes me feed, because people call us, we are 10 years, we don't know what's going on in our company is dying, we are feeling blah, blah, blah. But that's because they've only focused on the commercial part and not focused on the core, the assignments, who they are. Don't lose sight of your assignment just because you're driving commercial leverage. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you. Please, a standing ovation for our voice. Thank you.
Is that the loudest you can shout? Is that the hardest you can clap? Please celebrate a leading voice, our voice, a voice in this generation, the delectable, outstanding Nanke Essien. I thought the music was going to continue. We're feeling that vibe. All right. All right. Wow. Thank you. Audio. Thank you. Can we celebrate our leading voice once more? That was an outstanding session. Who clapped last? Send me your account number. I will send it back to you, Sha, but we'll send it first. Thank you so much, Ma. Thank you for the clarity that you bring to every room that you walk into. We are the clearer because you're here. Please celebrate her one more time. That was outstanding. That was phenomenal. We are going to the next voice. I know that your notepads, I know that your jotters, I know that your leaflets are going to be full. So if you have a physical copy, that could be a disadvantage. Maybe add a digital one so that you can so ensure that you take as much as you can take. This year we're not playing. We have not done a call and response yet. I know that Victoria hinted at it, so let me see. So when I say Voices Life Experience 2026, what do you say? This is where it what? Okay. And when I say it again, Voices Live Experience 2026, what do you say? We should add something else, Abi, so that it will be. I'm saying shift, create, grow, and what? Can you see it? There is a shift, there is a create, there is a grow, there is a become. So should we make that the second response? It makes sense, Abi? I know. So let's try it. Let's try. Are we ready? Are we ready? Voices Live Experience 2026. You have to shift your tempo. You have to shift your volume. You have to shift the talk with which you talk. Voices Live Experience 2026, you say what? Then I said, Voices Live Experience 2026, you say what? Some are shift, create, still with the last one. Look at it. It's shift, then create, then grow. Of course, when you're growing, you what? Become is the long form of B, which is the shortest, most powerful quote known to the world. B is the shortest quote, and is the most powerful quote I have seen in my life. So let's do it again. Now that we know what is written here, if you don't know, you can write it somewhere so that you can read it. Already, Voices Live Experience 2026. You say what? I don't like that. Let's repeat it. Voices Live Experience 2026. Voices Live Experience 2026. Please put your hands together for yourself. All right. Thank you very much, Sound. Thank you. We are going straight to our next voice session, and we are going to meet the voice of scaling. He is called the voice of scaling, and you're going to know why in a minute. He is the CEO of Sycamore. Wow, I like that. So let me keep reading. I guess more shout to a match on that. A fintech platform powering African businesses and individuals. Prior to running Sycamore, he worked at PwC and KPMG, where he provided professional services to various companies in and around West Africa. I thought his shout would like multiply, but I like that. He also worked at the petroleum industry giant Shell and had a brief stint with the Kenyan-based startup Pazisha. He holds an MBA from Lagos Business School, an IESC in Spain, and he is a first-class bachelor's degree holder in economics from Bowen University. He is a chartered accountant, chartered banking professional, chartered tax practitioner, and a fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Credit Administration, NICA. In addition to his role at Sycamore, he is the CEA, the Chief Economic Advisor at Statisent, a leading data company in West Africa, to speak to us on this session on building momentum, from motion to momentum, the year you actually build. Please welcome with me, with a shouting ovation, with a clapping ovation, please welcome Babatunde Akin Moses. Keep shouting, keep clapping till he gets there. Raise them, raise it, increase it.
Thank you. Hi, Babatunde.
Hi, Victoria.
Hi, good morning. And hi to our online audience, offline audience, on-site audience. Hi, everybody. Okay, so let's raise it again. Taking the cue from the first session, you know how hot it was. So can we raise our voice again? Hello, everybody. Is that the energy? You've dropped it. Hello, everybody. Are you ready? Okay, let's get right into it. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
So we're good to go. All right, so this session is going to be really practical. So like you know, I'll ask 3 questions because I'm not Oliver Twist and I don't want to ask all the questions for myself. I would also throw it open to the audience to ask one or two questions and we wrap it up. And so for me, first of all, introduction. You and Sycamore, I would like to know what specific problem were you trying to solve when you started that? So let's start from
there. All right. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation. Before we start, please, today is your birthday.
Yes.
Have they wished happy birthday?
They haven't.
Please help me wish Victoria happy birthday again.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, so what problem are we trying to solve? So, interesting story. I used to work at PwC before, and I went to business school, 2017. It was actually a study break, right? And we're looking at financial institutions around Africa, and we noticed that in Ghana and some other countries, SMEs could get access to loans easily. And we're looking at the case for Nigeria, right? So there are two things that we saw. One, we had experience, because I was running a side business. I have a laundry business, by the way. And what I realized is that it was easy as Tunde Akimoses, the employee of PwC, to get a loan. But it was very difficult as my business to get a loan as an entity. Very, very difficult. And I was wondering, what was that about? So that was the first. And then in business school, what we saw when we were looking at those financial institutions, we looked at the case of Nigeria. With all the credits that was going out in Nigeria at the time, financial, investments, debt, everything, over 40 million SMEs in sub-Saharan Africa, only 1% of that number were getting access to loans. And so we saw it as a very, very big opportunity, a problem to be solved, and a way to also make impact, right? So one of the fantastic things about where we did our MBA, Lagos Business School, they always say impact is not mutually exclusive with profit. So if you are making impact, you can also make profit. And impact is not necessarily around charity or you have to start an NGO. That's not necessarily impact, right? If you are solving a problem that is changing lives in a positive way, you're actually making impact. And there's opportunity to also make money and profits along the way. So we saw an opportunity, a very big opportunity, to make impact and hopefully make money. Thank you. All right.
An introduction, and James have started dropping. You know what I got from there? Impact is not exclusive. You can still impact and make money. I think this is for me, because many times I've received this deliverance now. I always think that to do the impact, when we're doing the non-profit style, I have to give. And I was born sometime as an undergraduate, very passionate young girl who wants to impact her world. And then I felt it was about giving without any flow back, or any sort of income style. And I graduated, started working, and I realized that I was working, earning money, and my salary, somehow I will look for something to do for that money, because maybe again, I had people that were taking care of the responsibility, feeding and all of those things. I was in my parents' house. So all my income was towards impact that was not giving me income. And I think that that's such a great balance that you have brought in here. I think that's for you too, yeah? Great. So let's get right into the conversation. A lot of people in this room are in motion right now, because for us, we want to talk about motion to momentum, and the shift every serious builder needs to have or must have, having built many things yourself with your experience. Many people here are in motion, taking meetings right here in a conference as well, chasing opportunities, building something, and sometimes it can feel productive, even when it's not sometimes. How do they know that? How does someone know if they are building something real or just staying busy?
Right. That's a very, very insightful question, and I think it's very important. So I really like the theme, the whole motion and momentum. I like that dichotomy, because people always say that busy work is not always the most productive, right? I think there are just a few markers that you can consider in terms of whether you're actually being busy or being productive. And I like to even say the first theme I said is, I think the most important thing is about whether or not you're actually making progress, right? Busy is activity, but is there really progress? And how you're measuring progress is, what you are doing now, are you better today than yesterday? Now, progress is not necessarily, it doesn't have to be exponential immediately. And I think that's also a very, very big mistake, right? Because, and we say it at the beginning of the year, I'm sure many people last week, you wrote that you want to read 100 books this year, you want to go to the gym 5 times a week, you want to be eating only fruits, no more cake, and all of that, right? And I think one book I try to read every year, even if I can't read, I read summaries. I'm sure many people here have read it. It's called Atomic Habits, right? And I think if you look at that book, one of the principles it talks about is, can you make 1% improvement every single day? So what is 1% improvement? So you want to do, let's take gym, for example. If you can do 1 push-up today, can you do 2 push-ups? Let me not say tomorrow. Next week, right? Can you do 3 push-ups in the 3rd week, right? So can you improve gradually, no matter how little? And that means that you also have to measure results, right? So it's really your expectations against your results. But I will put a note of caution here, because I think sometimes we can be a bit unrealistic about expectations, in the sense of many of us want to do things that maybe we are not yet ready for, right? You want to drive cars that Tony Elumelu is driving, go to the place. After somebody has worked for 30 years, you work for 3 years, and you want the same kind of success that the person wants. It doesn't have to be the same, but I think that there is a natural progression in terms of how well you get. And I always say that having a progressive mindset is very, very important. Again, that's one of my biggest themes that I'll say everywhere this year, right? Any business that is at a certain stage now, if you give yourself a certain timeline, say 5 years, how much progress are you making every single day? And those progress can be little changes, so that you're measuring results every single day. Even if you are just a little bit better than where you were yesterday, then you are making progress, and that is actually momentum, not just motion. So if you are tracking your results, which is very important, because not all of us are measuring our results, so you are measuring the results, you are improving every single day. And sometimes some of these things are also what I would call leading indicators, right? So what do I mean? It's not, so again, I'm going to use exercise analogy. You want to build muscles, but what you need to build muscle, for example, is that increased push-ups. So what you measure is, are you doing those push-ups every single day? Salespeople, are you calling 10 people every single day, right? So that's what you measure, not necessarily are you closing a sale every single day. If you're calling 10 people every day, or maybe 100 or maybe 50, whatever system you are using, and you're tracking that progress, you should see improvement. So measure progress, track it, improve a little every single day, as long as you're not staying stagnant. I think that's an indication of momentum as opposed to motion. Thank you.
Absolutely. Great. Great. Okay. So we read your bio and people were shouting, and that's just a little bit of who you are and the things that you've done. Now that leads me to my next question. Having done all of these things, building all of these things, now a founder, how do you decide what to keep building and what to let go? Because we're at that point where people want to do many things or are stuck at what to do. Maybe they want to build something, and how do you know what to keep, to focus on building and what to let go of?
Focus is, I think somebody says that focus is knowing what to do and what not to do, right? So I think there are a lot of factors, and it can't be the same for everybody, right? I think it depends on your own situation, and it depends on whether it actually moves the needle for you. But the truth is that if you look at a magnifying glass, I like to use this example. If you put a magnifying glass in the sun over like paper, if some of us did physics back in the day, you'll see that it's supposed to burn like either grass or a paper, right? And that's because it's all the heat rays are converging at a single point. And that's the power of focus, right? Putting all your energy on one single thing can really, really move the needle. In economics, we have this thing that we call opportunity cost, right? So when people say, what's the cost of something? The cost of something is not always in the money that you it's not always in the money that you spend on something. The cost of me being here, for example, is that I'm missing something else, right? And that thing can be either equally important or even more important. So cost is not always just about money. So what I would say is that for everybody at every point in time, you need to figure out what is that cost of you not doing something as opposed to you doing the other, right? I think one of the biggest conundrum for a lot of people that want to do business generally, and I assume that many of us are in the audience, is you want to try multiple things, or let me even give the example of somebody that is working in paid employment and then you want to have a side hustle. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's just that it's going to cost something very, very expensive. So what do I mean? Starting and building a business requires a lot of focus, a lot of energy. So if you leave your house by 6 a.m. and you don't get home till maybe 8 p.m. or whatever, it means that you're going to work on your business maybe from 9 p.m. up until maybe 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. or something. That means you are losing sleep. And that means you're going to show up at the office. You're going to show up at the office looking drowsy or whatever, right? So in that instance, are you going to be able to function optimally very well? I don't know. But I think it's very, very, very difficult. And I think it's even in the Bible as well. So you can't serve two masters at once, right? You cannot. So I think for everybody needs to sort of prioritize what is very important. And for a lot of us, you have to survive, right? I think in most instances, a lot of people have to take care of what brings in the income first, right? You look at a lot of business people and a lot of popular people that you know, they have something they call a cash cow. So what do I mean by a cash cow? You might see, maybe for example, you might see me now. You say I'm a founder, I run Sycamore. You guys might not know what my cash cow is. It might be that I have rich parents. It might be that I have maybe I'm selling, I don't know, maybe I'm selling goats and meat or spare parts in Alaba that you do not know about, right? But to the extent that there is cash and income coming in, I can come here and say I'm founder of Sycamore. And even if Sycamore is not making money, I can still come and be speaking, motivating, aspiring to perspire. But there is a cash cow somewhere that is taking care of my needs, right? So I think for a lot of people, it's very important that, and I like to say this, that's the most important thing for everybody that wants to do any kind of business or take any type of risk, is your basic needs must be met in one way or the other. And that's what started this whole Nepo, Lapo, baby conversation, right? If the risk that you and the son of somebody that is a billionaire can take is very different. You know, somebody was making fun that, look, people can be, I'm not supposed to throw shades, but people can be anything that they want to be if your basic needs are taken care of. So at every point in time, you have to first prioritize meeting, what are the basic needs? Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, clothing, and shelter being. Those things have to be taken care of one way or the other. So either it's your job, either it's your parents, if you're from a rich family, it's valid. No need to be ashamed of it. You should be proud of it, by the way. Any source of that income or whatever keeps you going, right? After that is taken care of, or at least is sorted, then you can start to experiment. I wouldn't advise you to quit a job, even if you are sweeping, and go and pursue your passion of photography if it's not paying your bills, because you must eat, right? So at the end of the day, there should be something that is taking care of the most essential needs, and then you can build around it in terms of focus. So please take care of yourself. I don't want anybody to perspire and aspire their way to hunger. I beg. Thank you.
I think this is the point where you need to clap. Thank you. And now, riding on that question, right? So, what's the most expensive mistake or mistakes you made in the first 2 years of running Sycamore? If you want to share that, or you could convert the question to what you have seen many startup founders make in the first 2 years, and what you would tell founders right here who are looking to start a startup or who already have started, how they can avoid and what to avoid.
Yeah, I think there were a lot of mistakes, to be honest. There were a lot of mistakes. I think one of the mistakes that we made, which we just, after almost 7 years in business, I would say we just got clarity on maybe last year or last 2 years, is maybe not defining the kind of business we wanted to build, and let me explain. Not in terms of the problem. The problem we wanted to solve was very clear, like I said before. But you know, if you say startup, there's startup in the conventional sense of the way Silicon Valley has defined startup. There's startup that people interpret literally as meaning I'm just starting up a new business. So even if I'm starting a bakery, that's a business. I'm starting up a new business, right? But the startup that is like a pay stack, for example, is run on different fundamentals, which is those businesses are not necessarily built in the short term to make profit. You know, they are built to give investors capital appreciation. Okay, let's just use this as a small like educational moment. So for those kind of startups, right, let me just give an analogy. For the initial investors, it is not the business that is supposed to make them profit. So let me give you an instance. We want to start a technology that can change the world for, I don't know, fashion people or television hosts. If I invest 10,000 naira into your business today and I take 10% of the business, right? That means your business is worth how much? If I give you 10,000 naira for 10% of your business, what's the value of your business? 100,000, right? So I take 10% of your business, and your business is valued at 100,000 naira. Now, what the Silicon Valley and foreign startup concept is that business is valued at 100,000 naira today after I invest, right? Now, the point of some of those businesses is, can you grow the business so fast, right? Now, growing the business fast is getting traction, getting more customers, doing more transactions, so that the business can get to a value of, let's say, 1 million, right? So if I can get the business of 1 million naira in 1 year or 2 years, what is 10% of 1 million naira? 100,000. How much did I invest? 10,000 naira. So I would have made 10x my money, right? When the business gets to a valuation of 1 million naira. So me as an investor, I will sell my shares if you can find somebody to buy them, and I would have made money. Now remember, this valuation is not revenue, it's not profit. It can be customers, it can be number of transactions, it might be whatever anybody says it is, right? But those businesses, a lot of them are based on valuation. I'm sure we know them. Some of us would have read TechPoint, TechAbal. In fact, one major one just exited earlier this week, right? Did you see the news? Anybody following? What's the name of the company that sold out this week? Mono. Thank you very much. And that is a whole other conversation. But that is that. Anyways, we can get to that we can talk about that another time. Anyway, so I think we didn't define that clearly. That was one. I think we didn't also invest in people early enough, right? The three co-founders, very good friends are co-founders. I think because we're trying to be so prudent, which is a good thing, which is one mistake I will talk about next, right? We were very, very hesitant to hire the best type of talent and then give them salaries more than what we were earning at the time. And that's what we actually needed to do, to get the talent to build some of the things that we wanted to do, because you can't scale any business without people, right? So for almost a year and a half, almost 2 years, right, we're trying to recruit. And people were asking for, I think at the time, maybe we're paying ourselves maybe 200K or 250K from the business equity. And then people wanted to hire, were asking for 300K, 350K. I know it sounds like small money now, but it was everything back then. And we hesitated, and I think we hesitated for too long. But when we finally understood that this is going to be built by people, I mean, we brought some of the guys we brought in later. They were earning just as much as we were at the time, if not slightly more. I know that sounds it's only a few people you can tell that you start a business, you're earning 300K and you employ somebody and pay the person 350. But that was some of the things that we needed to do, because trust me, business is all about people. Anything. I always ask, when people join Sycamore, I always ask one question: what's the most important thing to every business? And I put the options: people, ideas, money, or technology. then we start having a debate. That's always the first question. When you come to Sycamore, we do Sycamore Academy, and I start Sycamore Academy, and I ask them, what's the most important thing in business? They say people, capital, which is money, ideas of technology, and we have a debate. And I always come back and say, look, money, ideas, technology, they all come from people, right? Everything is from people. If you have people, you get good ideas. If you have people, they will be technology. You have people, they will go and make sales, you make money. So everything comes from people, right? So you can never compromise in terms of getting the best talent possible. I think we hesitated. Something we probably knew, but we sort of hesitated, right? And that mistake which people commonly make, but we didn't make that, hopefully. In fact, we overdid it. We're very, very conservative in terms of being prudent, right? With the equity we gathered from our savings and all, we could have rented a fine office, we could have hired some of these people, but we're doing Akagom. We held everything tight like this. We paid us all small. We didn't spend on marketing. We didn't spend on people. Everything was going into just servicing, just putting money in the loans, getting some vendors for the technology and all of that. But I think I see it the other way now, where people get small money, there's big office, big marketing campaign, ads everywhere. I think it's a bit too early. There's a time for that. Now we spend a lot on marketing. Now we spend a lot on all those things. But at the time, it wasn't, it wouldn't have been the best thing to do. But we should have spent on people specifically earlier more. Yeah.
Yeah, please. Thank you. And that was very insightful. Because of time, I'm trying not to double down on what you said, so we'll just move on to the next question. And that's because we want to extract as much value as we can within the short time. Talking about scaling now, what are the patterns you've seen in successful startups? You can also, Sycamore, as an example of that from your experience and from exposure with other people as well, that we can begin to identify that. I know there is no rule book, but I mean there are principles, and success leaves blueprints. So what are the things that we do this, if you do this, or avoid this, you're more likely to scale, maybe not faster, but you're more likely to scale at the right time and get the results that you should get. Starting this year, in fact, starting this week.
No, they're very simple things that you can do. So there are a few elements to scaling. So first off, there's a difference between scaling and growing, right? The difference between scaling and growing. I like to make that distinction. You might grow first before you start scaling, but they're both important. So think about it like this. Scaling is, easiest example I can give is, growing is increasing your revenue by 20%. Scaling is increasing your revenue by 20x. So we know the difference between 20x and 20%, right? Simple. I mean, we're business people, so we all know. So scaling is exponential, growth is geometric, so it's a very large extent, right? Or think of it +2 versus ×2. Maybe that's another very simple way to think about it. So in terms of scaling, a few things. We've said one already. Again, people. I'm very big on people. People. You need to get people. You're going to have to delegate. You're going to have to work with people. As soon as you understand that insight of people, and people might mean not always just employees. It might be co-founders. It might be partners. It might be external people. You can't scale or grow any business without having the best talent, right? And as your business starts to grow, another element of people, which also goes into some of the things I'll also talk about later, is around setting up, thinking about your people system, which is what some people will call HR, right? Not necessarily, I don't want to scare people to think that, you just started a business yesterday, then have to set up a full HR function. Not necessarily, right? All the things that an HR function does, you should start thinking about them earlier than you are a bit comfortable with. So in consulting, they used to say something that you have to start performing at the next level today. It's not when you get to, if you want to promote you to a manager next year, they should start seeing manager signs in you, right, from today. So if you want to be a big business next year, you should start thinking like a big business today. It is not when you start making 100 million that you're not saying, okay, now I'm now going to behave like a big business. So HR, people are managed by your HR system. What does an HR system do if you can't do it? They do training, learning and development, right? They call it L&D. So people have to be trained. They do performance management. People have to be managed. How are they performing? Every month you're checking their performance. If they are doing well, you promote them, you keep them. If they're not doing well, you have to let them go. That's part of what HR does, right? They do compensation and benefits. We're doing a new tax law. How are the salaries going to change? How do we increase their salary? What is their salary going to be next year, right? Those are some of the things that, again, this is now you thinking ahead of yourself, right? It's not the day that you are big that you now start thinking like a big business, right? So people, HR systems, very important. You also have to start thinking of, what I would call, trying to look for a simpler word, but the easiest word I can think of is productization. That's big English, right? Just standardizing your products. If you always have to customize, it depends on your type of business anyways, but there are different ways we can think about it. At some point, we need to get to a point that a place where the products or the services can be standardized in the sense that you can take it the way it is and sell it to somebody. So what do I mean? Are you going to wait? So if you're an accountant, for example, are you going to wait for people to call you to say, oh, I can do your books for you? Or do you want to have a package on your website that says, we'll do books, we'll do taxes, pay 100K a month, like that? And somebody comes, clicks it, and they can buy that 100K package. Or you want somebody to call you and say, oh, I'll do your books, I'll do your taxes. Oh, it's 150K, it's 120K. We'll start haggling. You've now wasted time. So those are some of the impacts of not standardizing something, right? You have it, this is a package, this is the price, this is how it is. Somebody comes, they take it. Now, 1 million people can go to your website at the same time. But if 100 people come to your door and you want to negotiate with each of them, you are doing the way they used to sell in the markets, where they are looking at your car and your shoe. And you're now telling your plantain is 15K. If your shoe is looking bad, plantain is 9K. You can't scale that way, right? Everybody has to buy it for 10K. I know you're thinking, oh, no, but I can make more money from this person if I do discriminatory pricing, but you can't scale that way. Scaling requires standardization, right? It requires standardization. And then operationally, the people in your back office, as much as possible, you also want to standardize your processes and your systems. I know we talk about structure a lot, but really we have to just put structures in place. And one test of structure, if you're thinking about structure, is can things happen if you're not there? If you're not in the room, if you're not in your office, can things move? Can you go on holiday for 1 week and nobody's going to disturb you in the night? So it's very